We've had another interest rate increase this week, which is the December increase by 0.25%, which takes us to a cash rate of 3.1%. And I've had a lot of people ask me about that and saying, well, obviously it would be a lot better to purchase at the start of the year when interest rates were low. And yes, you could borrow more, though. Is it really a great thing? Because interest rates were a low for pandemic. They're at a pandemic low. And the people that have purchased then are then behind all of these interest rate increases. And there's a lot more financial uncertainty. So I think there's actually an argument to be made that purchasing when interest rates are high and less likely to go up substantially, and in fact, they're more likely to stay stable or potentially drop into the future, is actually a benefit. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, 100%. Like I believe in, if you've purchased at the bottom, it's going to be a much harder time for you, because you've probably, just say for instance, your lending capacity now is 800,000. Back then it was $1 million. To deal with those increases, especially, the last 10 years, property or interest rates haven't gone up. So that's a new thing to build in, X amount of dollars per month that you're going to have to fork, say you can't go to the movies every week, or you're going out to dinner every single week. You might have to go to every fortnight. So having that life change for people is like, oh crap, I didn't really want to do that. And then on the other side of it, if you have purchased recently with all of the new rate hikes and you are at 800,000, my gauge on that is that one, you're sort of coming in with knowing of where your pricing is going to be, or where your repayments are going to lie. And then the other thing is you've got a shorter gap to when the prices start to go up, right? Because once the interest rates start to stabilize, and when they start going down, that's when we'll get another property boost, right? So if you've gone and bought, and you bought well at 800,000, yeah, you're probably in a much better position than someone that's bought at the height of the market when lending was, at a higher rate, to build some equity, right? So the whole premise of equity growth and building net wealth through property is literally based on the ability for people to get money. So if the bank changes your capacity and your ceiling, so if your ceiling has gone from $1 million down to 800, and that's what your demographic can purchase, and you live in that same demographic, your new ceiling is 800,000. So that stumps and slows down the median house price growth, right? Because everyone in that area can only afford 800,000. The moment the banks start to go, all right, well, let's just give these people another 50K with interest rate reductions, or I don't think the policy will ever change, like debt to income, because it sits around, say, 6 times 6 your income. But say they did just change and it went up to 7. That is a new ceiling. So your lending capacity might go from 800 to 900, just for argument's sake. All of a sudden, the median house price jumps up to 900,000, because that's what everyone can purchase. So that is literally how you can watch property prices go up. And if you've purchased at a high interest rate environment, or purchased in a high interest rate environment, if you're leading into a lower interest rate environment, your house price theoretically should go up, because there's opportunity for people to lend more. So yeah, that's my sort of gauge on it.
Yeah, so there's definitely the argument for both sides of the coin. You don't want to be over leveraged at all, which is what, definitely a lot of people could be in that position that purchased in 2021. Whereas now, regardless if we're at the bottom of the market or not, if you're planning to hold for a long time and your property does decrease in value slightly over the next 6 months, it shouldn't actually matter. As long as you can afford the repayments, you're going to be fine. So with that being said, there's actually an argument to say that it's actually better to be purchasing now, because there's a little bit more certainty in the short term. So if you're comfortable servicing the loan, that's obviously a conversation for you and your mortgage broker and your partner, if that's who you're buying with. Then 2023 could actually be a great time to buy.
Yeah, look, I honestly think it's a great time to buy. When we were talking about earlier, getting your ducks in a row. So I'm going through a refinance at the moment. And yes, it's a pain in the ass. Like, it's such a nightmare dealing with valuations and property managers trying to tee up tenants to get access to the properties. And then brokers and all of the files that you've got to give to them. They want to know what you had for dinner last night, and it's an absolute nightmare. But next year, I'll have a bullet in the gun if I need it. I don't know if I'll need it, but it's there. So I'll have everything sorted. Everything will be there, ready to go, because we're, building in lines of credit and whatnot. And it's literally, I always say, just get the bullet in the gut. So if you're thinking about purchasing, start the process with your mortgage broker. Some mortgage brokers might get upset with me to say, just go and get a pre-approval. You don't have to do the full pre-approval, but talk to a good mortgage broker. I just want to find out what I'm actually getting or what I can actually afford. So can you just give me a rough estimate? And then as soon as I'm ready to purchase, like I'll go and look at stuff and I'll come back to you and I'll give you 2 to 3 weeks to get me a pre-approval before I go and bid at auction. But just give me a number, like just roughly give me a number what I could lend up to, because that's the bullet in the gun. You just want to have that mindset of, okay, if something does pop up, I can execute on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the best advice that someone could get, especially going into next year. Like, just be prepared enough that if the opportunity arises and everything works out in your personal circumstances, you have the ability to go forward and purchase in 2024.
Yeah, and this goes, if you do think about the next 8 weeks, so we're first week of December, right? If you think most people are probably going to go, you know what, I don't come back to work till the 16th. I don't even want to look at property until after Australia Day. That's generally how things go in the real estate world. And the real estate market doesn't turn on until after Australia Day. But if you have got your pre-approval sorted, or you've got that number and you've found a broker that's working through the holidays and all of that kind of stuff, and you don't have to settle it this side of Christmas, you can settle it next year. But imagine if you took advantage of that. So you've removed probably 50% of your competition. And there's still properties around. So there's still properties that will need to get sold. And this is why I've always found December, Jan to be some of the best months to buy. Best months to buy for, like, I've purchased myself in December. And some of the best times to build relationships with real estate agents, because there'll be some that work all the way through. So you'll get the young guns that come through. Some that, went off to Mykonos during July and they've spent all their money and they're sort of, needing to work because they're hungry. They need to get listings back. They're going to work all the way through. I've already spoken to multiple guys who said, no, I'm just working the whole way through because, I need to. And because their spring market wasn't anywhere near what they expected. So that's a really good opportunity to get out to opens and just go and build these connections, because that's where you can get access to the off markets. Now, we do it professionally. We have spent years building these relationships out, but as a first home buyer, as a upgrader, wherever you are on your purchasing journey, if you put the time in, specific market, like if you focus on a particular area, you can build these relationships with some agents over the next 8 weeks and be well ahead of the game. Well ahead of the game. Even if it's a pre-market, even if you can't get off markets, if you get a pre-market inspection, or property, that just means it's going online the first week of February, but you got to look at it on the 15th of January or the 16th of January, right? You're 2 weeks ahead of everyone else. So that's an advantage, because you could literally go, I've already seen this property. I've sent the contracts off to the conveyancer. I'm going to have the building and pest inspection guy with me on the first open. So at that open, I can literally give them a signed offer. That's how you buy real estate in a competitive market. And it's still going to be competitive because of the lack of stock. So good properties will always be competitive at the moment.